There we go. All right, so again, welcome to Module 2, where we're going to learn about our location, venue, tours, and activities. So, sharing my screen. All right, there we go. So, this is Module 2, and this is part of our visioning, where you get to start plugging in the bits and pieces of what you saw in your vision. Where you're going to go, where in the world, what kind of place you're going to be staying at, whether you're going to be in a big hotel, in a retreat center, renting a big home, and what kind of tours and activities you will include. And if you guys want to take some notes, feel free to do so. And you will get a download of all of these slides later, so you can go back through them, and of course the replay. So it's time to focus your full attention on creating the retreat of your dreams. Put away your phones, close social media, stay focused, and get fully present to creating your dream retreat. So our Dream Retreat Creation Play Shop will be April 26th, 28th in Laguna Beach. And I'm working on finalizing hotels this week. So I will let you know as soon as we have that confirmed. But there's some really nice ones that's literally right on the beach. So it's going to be lots of fun. And I will be asking for a 100% refundable seat deposit for the retreat, just so I can know how many people are actually coming. And when you show up at the retreat, at the event, then I will, at the play shop, then I will hand you your money right back. So let's first start off by visualizing. So I'm going to lead you through a little visualization like we did last time, but this is all focused on the location, the venue, the tours and activities. So if you're comfortable, closing your eyes, put your body in a comfortable position, sit back, feel supported, feet planted on the ground. Take a few cleansing deep breaths and just allow all the busyness of the day to wash away. As you're breathing in and out, it's almost like the waves of the ocean coming in and washing away all the busy, crazy things we do every day. Good. Now I'd like you all to visualize that you are actually at your retreat. You're arriving at your retreat venue. And as you're just pulling up to the property, where in the world are you? Look around at the scenery. Do you see snow-capped mountains? Do you see coconut palm trees and white sand beaches? Is it a mountain meadow? Are you by a lake? And think back to how you got there. Did you have to fly, or could you drive? How did you arrive? Look around at the people. Is there something that you can identify the location, what country you are in? And now, as you're pulling into the driveway of your venue, are you pulling up to this beautiful, luxurious hotel with a valet waiting to meet you? Or are you pulling up to a retreat center tucked away in a beautiful forest or near a beach? Set up, perfectly waiting for you. Or are you arriving at a really remote but really fun and exciting eco lodge somewhere in the world? Or are you being handed the keys to a beautiful home that you rented for your group? Step into the venue. Are you in the hotel lobby, the retreat center welcoming area? Are you in the foyer of your home? Or are you at a remote eco lodge? And now move forward to the rooms. Look at the rooms and see. See what the room looks like. What size is the bed? What you see out the window? What does the bathroom look like? Is there a little refrigerator? What little touches have they left for you? Flowers, fruit? Does it have absolutely everything you and your guests would need? Place to put their clothes, hang up their clothes, an iron, hair dryer. And now come out of the room and move to your meeting room where you're going to gather with your participants. What does it look like? Is it warm and cozy and looking out with a fireplace out to the snow in the mountains? Does it even have windows? Is it carpet or wood floor? What kind of chairs does it have? Is it all set up exactly how you indicated when you booked the venue? Ready and waiting for you just to step in and deliver your content and welcome your group. And now imagine what kind of activities you'd like to be doing in this location. Will you have morning yoga classes? Are you going to do some fun arts and crafts activities? Some sharing exercises? Have a dance night? And what tours and fun activities can you go out of your venue to go do? Can you hike to a local waterfall and swim in the pool? Maybe you'll all go skiing, snowshoeing. Maybe there's a local winery you can tour. Local museum or farmer's market. Just see all of that in your mind and bring yourself back to the room Opening your eyes, wiggling your toes and fingers, giving yourself some gentle touch so that, and then if you saw something in particular, take a note, write it down so you don't forget it. All right. So now we're going to choose the right location, venue, and activities, and they can make or break your retreat. You can have the greatest content in the world, but if there is a problem with the venue, then you are going to, then the people are not going to be comfortable. Maybe there's no heat. I actually went to a hotel in Japan right at the base of Mount Fuji in February, and there was no heat. And I was miserable. I literally had to sleep with every bit of clothing I had packed. And even then it was hard to sleep. And I was brought in as to give a workshop. And it was not fun. And of course, I got sick afterwards because I was so miserably cold. So just be aware that everything is perfect. Now, if I had booked the venue and had my own people there, people would have been complaining about that retreat forever and said, never go with her. But fortunately, it wasn't my event. I was brought in. All right, so choosing the right location that matches your transformational vision. So if you're going to do a Italian cooking retreat, your location is not Montana. You're going to want something that is in perfect alignment with what your vision is, what your theme is, what your message is. So the destination is equally important and can be one of the biggest drawing points, the attractions for joining your retreat. So it's equally as important as the results that you are promising. So local, and by local I mean someplace within an hour or two drive from where you and most of your people live. Someplace you can just drive up into the nearby mountains, a lake, a nearby beach. So let's go over the pros of making this retreat be local. Obviously, it's easy to get to. Everybody can just jump in their car and get there. Arrive in a couple hours or less. Very little travel time, so they don't have to take off a whole day of work just to get there. They can, if they have a regular job or they got kids, they can pick them up from school, drop them off somewhere where they're going to be taken care of, and then drive on to the retreat or after work. And there's little cost to get there, maybe just putting a tank of gas in their car or taking a local train or bus. And it's very easy for you to check out in advance. You can take a drive out there and check it out and see if it really lives up to what their website pictures will show you. And it's very easy for you to bring the supplies you need and the equipment. Just throw it in your car and off you go. And the cons. What's the problems of choosing a local retreat? It may not be very exciting or a draw to bring people in because it may be a place they've been to, a location that, if it's so local, they're like, oh yeah, I go there on the weekends all the time. So it's nothing new. And so it may not feel like a complete getaway. They may not feel like they're able to completely disconnect from their lives. All right, so now let's look at regional. And by regional, I mean somewhere within your state or your province, somewhere that's not that far away. So the pros of a regional location are it's relatively easy to get to. It may take a little bit longer, but they can still easily drive to it, half a day or so. So they can easily get there within one day. Again, relatively low cost to get to. Again, a tank of gas, again, or a train or a bus ride. And it's not hard to check out in advance. You can plan, maybe you could go there for a weekend on your own beforehand, before you commit to really check it out. And it is possible to bring supplies, your own supplies and equipment. And it does feel like more of a getaway because you are having to travel a little bit. It's not something that somebody's going to go to on a Saturday on their own. Now, the cons of a regional location is, again, it still may not be as exciting or attractive as someplace farther away. It still might feel too close to home, too similar, so they can't disconnect well. Doesn't feel exotic, so may not have that draw factor that, yes, I want to go to that place. And now let's look at national. I put this photo in for our Canadian participants. This is Lake Louise in Canada. So anywhere within your country, the pros of going to a national location. Relatively easy to get to, not all kinds of complications. You can most likely get there in one day, although it may include a flight, but you could still likely get one straight direct flight there. And a reasonable cost to get there. It's not going to be a $3,000 plane ticket. And the utilities, the electricity, the money, all the amenities everything's going to be the same. And you can often find supplies and equipment nearby. And it feels more like a getaway when they have to get on a plane, when it's a bit further away. All right, so the cons of a national location is the travel costs and flights may be a deterrent for some people because they're going to have to add what the flight cost and traveling to get there on top of what they're already spending for the retreat. I do see some of you putting notes in the chat, and I'll come back and we'll get to all the questions and comments afterwards, after the presentation. But feel free to keep putting them there. Travel time might add 2 full days of time. So it may take them a full day to get there and a full day afterwards, which can affect if they have work. And again, if they have children to take care of, so they may have to take more time out of their work schedule. It may not feel exotic. All right, so let's look at international locations. The pros of international. Here's where you get the real exotic feel. They've really stepped out of their comfort zone, gone someplace really new and exciting, likely someplace they've never been before. And ideally, it's a place they can get there in one day. Sometimes it may be a long day of travel. Sometimes there may be 2 flights to get there. But it ideally should be where they can get there in one day. It does feel like a complete getaway, a complete disconnect from their normal day-to-day life. The excitement of someplace new to discover, that whole adventure spirit will come out in them. All right, so let's go with the cons of the international location. The cost and the flights might be a deterrent. It's gonna, usually flights out of the country are going to be more expensive. Oftentimes you're dealing with a different language, which means it can complicate just about anything from ordering at restaurants, getting a taxi, everything. Utilities and money can be completely different. So your people may have to buy adapters for their chargers. They may have for their devices. They may have to try figure out all the time, calculate how much money they're actually spending when they're buying souvenirs or buying meals. And a passport is required. So everyone will have to have an up-to-date passport ready to travel. And you need to be aware of local customs and expectations. For example, here in Panama, they consider it rude to bring you your check at the restaurant. You can literally sit there for 8 hours and they will never bring you the check. They will never try, which is kind of nice. They'll never try and rush you out of the restaurant. But if you're expecting them to bring it and you're wondering and you're waiting, that won't happen. So you have to know how to ask for the check so that they can bring it. And they're happy to bring it when you ask. So little things like that. And like tipping. Is tipping expected? Is it, what is the tipping procedure in that area? And of course, if you're going someplace where, for example, where people in a Muslim country where the ladies, like if you're going to Dubai, the ladies have to be covered. You can't be walking down the street in a tank top and shorts. Even in Panama, you can't get into a government building or visit someone in a hospital in shorts. You have to wear long pants or a dress. So you have to be aware of these things. And of course, you got to deal with airport security. You have to go through immigration, customs. Some countries require visas. So all of that red tape has to be navigated. All right, so which location feels right for your retreat? You're going to go national, regional, local, or international? Where are you going to go? Where is your retreat going to be held? And a lot of times for a first retreat, it's really great to go someplace local or regional because it's it's in your comfort zone. And it's going to be a lot easier than navigating a whole new country that you've never been to. Obviously, an international location, it's a little harder to go check it out or expensive to do so. So it's a great way to get your feet wet in holding retreats is to do so locally. All right, so one thing to consider when you are selecting your location is making sure you get the right dates. That's really important. And that can be a real challenge if you pick the wrong dates. So there's a number of things to consider when choosing the dates for your retreat. Local weather. Are you going to go in, obviously you don't want to go to Sedona in Arizona in August when, it's 105 degrees and everybody's miserable and you had planned to do yoga outdoors and hiking in the afternoons, and your people are sweating and dying of heat stroke. Literally, that's not good. Or do you go to Costa Rica for your yoga retreat in November? Sounds great. It's cold and miserable in the US in northern climates in November. But November is the peak of rainy season in Costa Rica. And you're gonna get the torrential rains all day long. So you won't be able to do your yoga classes outdoors. You won't be able to go out and do fun tours because it's gonna be pouring down rain. Now it's warm, but you still have to consider this. So do some research on the weather in the location you want to go to. Local holidays at your destination. Every country has their own holidays. I'll use Panama for an example because it's what I know. Here in Panama in November, it is Patriotic Month. We have 5 patriotic holidays. So everything in the city is shut down, which is nice if you're going to be in the city because there's no traffic. But on the other hand, everybody's on vacation and likely going to be at the same location you're going to. Or if you want to come to Panama and you want to go to in February, which is a great place to get away from northern climates, great time of year. But mid-February is Carnival here. So again, you're gonna have tons of young people, loud music, lots of drinking, and the parties go 24/7 here for 3 or 4 days. So you don't wanna be caught in the middle of that. Or like this picture, in Mexico, the Day of the Dead. Do you know off the top of your head when that date is? I don't know, but if you're going to Mexico to participate in Day of the Dead activities for your retreat, great. But if you're going to Mexico and you want a quiet, intimate retreat and the whole town is celebrating, that's not going to work. So really check out the local holidays at your destination and know what that happens during those holidays. You also want to be aware of the holidays and school vacations from where your people are coming from. So sometimes having a retreat, say a women's retreat, during school vacations is really hard for mothers to get away if they have children at home because they have to schedule extra childcare as opposed to the kids being in school in their regular routine and having their husband or partner or parents taking care of the kids and keeping them in that routine. Find out when it's easier for them to get away. Now, things like 4th of July, obviously Christmas, Thanksgiving are not times if you're going to lead a retreat for people that have families because they're not going to want to get away. They're going to be with their families. If you're running a singles retreat, that might be perfect time because they may be looking for people to spend time with during those normal family times. So be aware of holidays at your destination and where your people are coming from. And will it help or hinder your retreat? Now, holidays like Memorial Day and Labor Day are great ones to go over because that adds an extra day off of work. If they have to take off of work, they're already going to have that off. So they're not going to have to use vacation time to get away. You want to avoid peak tourist season. If you're going to be doing activities that's really popular in that area. Or the other thing about that is, so like if you go on a tour and it's super crowded and you're, swimming through the crowds just to see the attraction, that's no fun. Nobody wants that. And generally speaking, at peak tourist season times, the prices of venues are higher. So the ideal time to go is off-peak tourist season but what they call the shoulder seasons, which is on either end of the peak tourist season, where the weather is still great, the activities are still happening, the prices are lower, and there's not so many crowds. Seasonal activities. If you want to include swimming with dolphins or whale watching, there may be a season for that. Here in Panama, our whale watching season is July through mid-October. People call all the time and say, I just got a call today actually from somebody who said, I want to go whale watching. Can we go tomorrow? So, well, we can go, but we're not going to see any whales because there's none here right now. So be aware. And obviously, if you're going to want to go take your group snowshoeing, then obviously you got to have snow on the ground. So keep in mind the activities you want to do and whether they're seasonal or not. So again, off-season prices. If you go off-season, one of the things about here in Panama is our rainy season is April all the way through November. That's most of the year. But that's what we call our winter. And most tourists are terrified. They get scared off by the words rainy season. We actually call it the green season. It's not, because it actually rains every day, but it doesn't rain all day long. It'll rain for 10, 20 minutes and then the sun comes out and it's always warm. So even though it's off season, it's really pleasant. Because of the clouds, it's a little bit cooler. The sun isn't quite so intense, and you also get the lower prices, and there's a lot less people around. So sometimes off-season can be the perfect time to go. All right, so now that we've chosen our location in the world that we're going to, the next step is to choose the venue. We want a large hotel. Do you want a retreat center? Do you want an eco lodge? Or will you be renting a large home to house your retreat? So when choosing a location, you have to ask many questions to determine if it is the right fit for you. So what is the feel of the venue? Again, does it match your retreat goal? If you were doing a couples retreat and your goal is to create deeper intimacy with your people, then obviously you don't want a venue that's going to have a ton of attractions and a lot of bars that are all set up for hooking up. You want these couples to concentrate on each other, not on all those other distractions. So make sure it's perfectly aligned with the theme of your retreat. So what amenities are offered at the venue? Does it have a spa? Do they have a yoga teacher? Do they have a restaurant? Do they have a concierge? Is there a swimming pool? Is there a hot tub? Are there refrigerators in the rooms? Is there air conditioning? All of those things you need to be aware of. So does your venue offer meals? And if so, are there options? Is it a big hotel that has a number of restaurants and bars? Or is it a retreat center that has one kitchen and serves one meal? Or if you're renting a house, obviously there's not going to be any meals at all. So then what are you going to do? Do people have to drive to find the food, or are you going to bring somebody in to cook for you? Do they have a spa or a masseuse available? A pool and a hot tub? Are there recreational activities at the venue? Do they have a nature trail? Do they have a gym, a workout room? Do they have a yoga room? Do they have kayaks available or bicycles? Is there ping pong tables? Is there a pool table? Are there fun things for your group to do? And is there a good meeting space for your group gathering? For me, I prefer to have a meeting room where I've got windows. Some people don't. Some people don't like the distraction. What do you like? What are you going to want in a meeting space? And is it going to be the right size? Some of the large hotels are set up for huge meetings, 500, 1,000 people, but they don't have a room for 20 people or 15 people. Is there a nearby restaurant? If not, are there restaurants and stores that your people can walk to or can take an easy short taxi or Uber ride to? Do they have the equipment you need? If you're going to be showing a presentation like this one, do they have a projector? And what's their rental policy? Some hotels will charge you a fee if you bring your own projector. And their fee is so ridiculously high. I've had to rent for one day, I've had hotels charge me more than it would cost me to go buy a projector. But they charge a fee to have you bring one in. So you're stuck for using their equipment. I've also had that equipment fail and they don't have a good tech on staff to make it work. So you have to check out all the equipment. Do they have a whiteboard? Do they have flip charts? Do they have electricity so that you can plug in your computer or a sound system, microphones, all those things you might want and need. Really important, what is their cancellation policy? If for some reason something happens and you're going to have to cancel the retreat for whatever reason, will you be able to get your money back? Will they work with you? Can you maybe use that deposit that you paid and transfer it to another date later in the year? Really read the fine print on their contracts. Do they have an airport shuttle? Are they going to be able to pick your people up at the airport and help them get there? The bigger places, depending on how close to the airport they are, will. The smaller places, not so much. All right, so let's go through each one of these venues. The pros and cons of a large hotel. They're well known, so they have this kind of exciting draw to them. Just the feel of, wow, I'm going to Atlantis in the Bahamas. It's very exciting. They'll have plenty of restaurants, shops for people to eat, to pick up things like shampoo or whatever they might have forgotten, snacks. They likely have an airport shuttle. It has every amenity imaginable. They'll have concierge, they'll have valet, they'll have a spa, they'll have sometimes a beauty shop, they'll have everything you could ever want. They'll have a laundry service, they'll have everything. And they will have meeting rooms and be well prepared for groups. All right, so what are the problems with going with a large hotel? Could be expensive. Your guests might feel that like they're completely lost in the crowds. You're likely to lose any intimacy you're creating in the room. Minute they go out, they're just one of many. They're often not well prepared for smaller groups. I was recently looking at a larger hotel for a friend of mine, and it had, the smallest room was for 80 people. They didn't have anything smaller than that. So you could rent it for your small group, but are you going to feel kind of like drowning in this giant space? So it can be really hard to create intimacy and the safe, secure feeling that you're going to want for your retreat. And your guests will likely be completely distracted the minute they step out of the gathering room with so many things to do. And it may be hard to find a quiet room to gather with all the activity and all the people hustling and bustling and kids laughing and screaming, running down the hallways. It could be really hard to find this quiet space for people to really do that transformational work that you're looking for them to do. All right, so let's move on to a retreat center. So the pros of a retreat center are that's what they do. They are designed to host retreats. They're completely set up to support you and your group. They're usually in a beautiful location. They understand your goals of letting people feel like they're completely disconnected, that you're looking to have some transformation happen, looking for their people to go deep. So they're usually in a location that's very perfect and nurturing for that. It will be quiet. It won't have all the distractions of a large hotel. It's very easy to create that intimacy and that sacred, safe space you're going to want. And they'll be able to cater to special dietary needs of your group because that's what they do. As a retreat center, they're going to be very used to handling the vegans, gluten-free, lactose intolerant, organic, all of those things. They already know what your people are going to want and need as far as food. And very likely you will have the entire place just for you and your group, which really creates this nice group dynamic. And they will have the perfect size meeting rooms all set up for your group, ready to go. Now, the cons. What are the problems with going to a retreat center? It might be a bit remote, hard to get to. This location in the picture is where I do my Bimini Swim with Wild Dolphin retreats. But we have to meet everybody in Fort Lauderdale. Then we have to take a charter plane over to Bimini, go through customs. Then we have to take a water taxi to get over to this center. So there's a few steps. The good news is this retreat center has it all lined up and takes you. They have somebody that takes you from step to step to step. So you don't have to think about, okay, do I have to call and make sure the water taxi is there? Is the plane on time? Is that all set up? They have that all handled for you. But sometimes you have to figure all that out. There's probably no other restaurants or shops nearby. It might be a bit isolated. So it may be, some retreat centers may be, a half an hour or more drive just to the nearest restaurant or grocery store for your people. This one in the picture, this is in Bimini. There are restaurants, but the island is so narrow, you could literally walk across it in 3 minutes from beach to beach. So there's not a lot there. It's perfect for swimming with dolphins, but not much else. Some places, other tours and activities, again, may be far away. You may have to travel quite a bit, half hour, an hour, to get to anything else or to bring somebody in. The amenities might be limited. The more remote you are, the less likely there'll be strong Wi-Fi or cell service, which actually might be a pro, because if they can't get online, they can't be on their phone, they're going to be totally disconnected. But if they feel like they want to check in with their family, make sure everything's going fine at home, and they can't, that might stress them out too. All right, let's look at an eco lodge now. So the pros of an eco lodge are really exotic, very remote feel. Usually they're way off the beaten path, really fun and exciting. The nice thing is most of them, they're very, very green. They have a very low environmental impact. So you can feel good that a lot of them are off the grid. They may run completely on solar or wind power. Perfect for your guests to completely disconnect. They're ideal for your small groups. And again, you very likely may have the entire place to yourself. Again, that brings this really safe, nice, intimate feel for your group. And they're all in beautiful locations surrounded by nature. So easy to create that intimacy, that sacred, safe space. All right, so what are the problems with an eco lodge? Obviously, it might be a challenge for your people to get to. Most eco lodges are not going to have an airport shuttle. They may have, say if it's in Costa Rica, they may fly into San Jose, the main big city, and then have to take a 5-hour bus and then get off in a little city somewhere. They have no idea, they don't speak Spanish, and then they have to take a boat, or they have to take a local taxi, or who knows. It could be very complicated. There's not likely to be any other restaurants or shops nearby. The eco lodge is your entire world while you're there. Electricity, Wi-Fi, and cell signal may be weak or non-existent completely. So again, that could be nice for them to disconnect, but it could be really stressful for some people, especially with families and children. There may not even be air conditioning or hot water. So keep that in mind. How game are your people? How adventurous are they? Are they going to be open to that? Or is that going to be a deal breaker? Humidity might be a problem, especially in a tropical location. Not everybody's used to dripping in sweat. And bugs might be a challenge for some people. Or there are a lot of mosquitoes around. And finally, let's look at renting a large home for your retreat. So the great things about renting a house is it's very cozy. You really create an intimate feel with everybody living and sharing the same space. Perfect for smaller groups. Usually a house will have 7 to 12 people capacity. It's really easy to gather the group together. They're not going to be off wandering. They're not going to be out in a restaurant. They're just right there in the home or on the ground. So it's really easy to gather everyone back together. It's just perfect to inspire this group connection. And you can rent it wherever you want. So you can choose a beautiful location surrounded by nature, or wherever that is perfect for your retreat. So again, very easy to create that intimacy and that very sacred, safe space with everyone. All right, so what is the downside of renting a house? Again, it might be a challenge for your guests to arrive. A retreat center and an eco lodge will likely have signs on the road this way, directing people to find it. A house, when you rent somebody's house, there's not going to be a sign. It may be just a dot on a map. And if it's remote, their GPS may not have signal once they're trying to find it, all of those things. So that can be a real challenge.
Moment to quickly introduce myself until she gets back on. I missed you guys last Monday, but I watched the replay yesterday. My name's Bethany. I'm in California, and you guys are all awesome. Super psyched to be on this with you. My computer's not working for some reason, so I'm listening from my phone. But
same problem. I can't get internet on my computer, but I can get it on my cell phone, and I'm not using cellular data. It's the weirdest thing.
So can you see anything on your phone, or are you just listening in like me?
No, I can see.
Oh, okay, yeah, I couldn't even get that working, but that's okay. I can watch it later. But everyone shared their vision. So my vision is to work with women in their 30s to 60s for empowerment, healing, inner child healing, and connecting into developing time and space and tools to really center themselves in source, connecting with whatever their spirituality is. I love creating and holding space for that. So yeah, excited about doing this. I did my first mini retreat with 2 clients in Cancun end of December, and I injured my hand and haven't been able to massage for the first time in 18 years. So I'm really at a point of complete career shifting. So this couldn't have come at a better time. So yeah, excited to learn from you all.
I'm back. Thank you for sharing, and thank you for keeping everything going. I love that. So this is a good example of going with the flow and adjusting to any and all problems and glitches that come up. So I'm going to go ahead and mute you guys all and then share my screen. All right. Okay, let's come back into here and back to here. All right, so we're back looking at the house, and we learned about the cozy and intimate feel, great for small groups, easy to gather the group, perfect to inspire group connection, beautiful location, and easy to create intimacy. And the first challenge was all about that it can be difficult for your people to arrive at the home. There's probably no other restaurants or shops nearby because it's probably in a neighborhood. Or in a remote location. So again, your people are going to have to drive out to find restaurants, or you're going to have to take everybody out, or hire a private chef to come in, have it catered, or if you're up to it, which I wouldn't recommend when you're leading a retreat, doing the cooking yourself. Or have it all about everybody contributing and doing their own. It's harder when you're renting a home for people to have alone time or to get away from the group. So if they want to really do some inner processing, reflecting, sometimes they're sharing a room, and then the living room is open space for everyone, so that they will have a really hard time finding a spot on their own, unless there's really big grounds that they can walk around on. Most rooms in a big house will have 1 bed. So you will be limited on the number of guests. So if you're searching like on Airbnb or VRBO for a house and it says they sleep 12 people, but that means it may mean they only have 6 beds, because they're thinking it's couples, people who are willing to share a bed. They may have only 1 room with twin beds for kids. So that you have to be aware of that and really take that into account. So it may be, say 12 people, but really you can only have 6 or 7 in the house. Because if you're doing, say, a women's retreat, and these women don't know each other, they are not likely to be comfortable sharing the same bed with a stranger. So you have to be aware of how many beds there actually are, not how many people they say they can hold. You may need to hire a private chef or do some of the cooking, or I have done it where I rented a big home in Hawaii, and we all just went grocery shopping the first day, on arrival day. Everybody went out grocery shopping, and sometimes we prepared meals as a group, and sometimes people just fended for themselves. And then we just went out to restaurants a couple of the days. It worked out. All right, so which type of venue feels right for your retreat? A large hotel, a retreat center, an eco lodge, or a house? All right, so now let's move on to meals. Restaurants, private chef, family style, or let people fend for themselves. When you're thinking about the meals on your retreat, do you want to include the meals for your participants? If so, there's a lot to consider. Again, does the venue provide food? Is the food aligned with your retreat? For example, if you're doing a detox retreat, you don't want to be at a place that only has fast food. You want to be at a place that you are able to guarantee that there is nice, healthy, organic food available. Or is it a place where you be able to get nice, healthy food, but they have to walk by a donut stand every morning and smell these fresh baked goods every time they're going to the gathering? So if you include the meals, it raises the costs in your budget for your retreat. So you have to plan that. Some hotels will include breakfast. Some don't. Check in on that. So will you have to bring in a chef, hire a caterer, or do the cooking yourself? Will you be able to accommodate everyone's dietary requirements? Nowadays, there's guaranteed you're gonna have, it's not gonna be easy. You're gonna have somebody who's got some real challenging meal requirements. The gluten-free, vegan, lactose intolerant, allergies, organic. I had one retreat in the Pearl Islands where it's really hard to get you have to bring everything in from the mainland. And I had some vegetarians, I had some gluten-frees, and then I had one lady who could pretty much only eat protein and meat. So it was a real challenge, but I hired a local on the island who cooked for me, and she did an amazing job. But you have to make sure that whoever's doing your cooking and providing the food can handle everybody's dietary needs. So if you provide the food, make sure you can meet everyone's expectations as well as dietary requirements, because food is part of relaxing, it's nourishment. You want people to feel like they want them to enjoy their meal, and they don't want them to feel bloated. You don't want them to feel hungry. You have to make them happy through the food. And one of the first things people complain about while they're traveling is the food. So if the food doesn't measure up, you will hear about it. So you want to eliminate those complaints. All right, so what if you let people find their own food? It makes it a whole lot easier for you as far as planning and budgeting. Just takes it completely out of your concern. However, you have to consider how accessible restaurants are, and is there a variety? Because people get tired of eating at the same restaurant every single day during a retreat. They have to be able to change it up. And are the restaurants close by? Will it take them more than 10 minutes to get to them? Will they have to take a taxi? How are they going to get there? So you will have to plan when you're scheduling your retreat the amount of time it's going to take your guests to get to the restaurant, order, eat, pay their bill, and return back to the retreat. And it can break up the group dynamic and the flow of the retreat to send them off and say at lunchtime, you're doing some really amazing work in the morning and they're just on the verge of a breakthrough, and then you send them out for lunch and they go off in a gazillion different directions. Some people may show up late after lunch, they're straggling in, and they've completely lost. They're not that verge of the breakthrough. It's like you have to start all over again. All right, so let's move into transportation. This is not transportation to arrive at your location, but this is moving within and around your location. From once you're at the venue, or once you got everybody gathered to the retreat, do you have to take a local plane out to the venue? Do you need to hire a local van, take a train or a ferry or a boat? So finding the right transportation is important. First, are you going to include this in transportation within the retreat package price? So does your venue provide an airport shuttle? If not, will you provide it? Here in Panama, for my Well and Dolphin Wisdom retreats, I provide airport pickup because I know 99% of the people who are coming on my retreats have never been to Panama, and most do not speak Spanish. So asking them to find their way to the first hotel, it's going to be a little scary. So I'm there to meet them so that it makes it super easy and comfortable for them. And for group meals, if you're all going to go out to a restaurant, how are you going to do that? You're going to hire a local van to take you all? Or are you just going to call a bunch of Ubers and everybody shuttle over? You have to think about every step of the way. Will you provide transportation to local shopping and stores? There may be a really cute little shopping area, downtown area. And some hotels will provide shuttles into those areas. If you're including local activities that are off-site from your venue, how are you going to get there? Who's going to take you there? And it's always better to just have everything all prepared, again, all lined up, easy to go, so that it all flows smoothly. And if you're going on a tour, does the tour operator provide hotel pickup, venue pickup, so that you don't have to think about that? The tour starts at 10, but they're going to come and get you at 9:30. Or do you have to show up and arrange that transportation on your own? Is it easy for your guests to get a taxi? Is there Uber and Lyft in the area? If you're at a really remote location, the hotel may have to call a taxi. On some little islands, there just aren't any taxis. So then sometimes the restaurants might have a shuttle to come get you. If you are including any transportation at all, don't forget to include that in the cost, in your budget. All right, so you want to make it easy for your guests to get around. By the way, the picture I'm showing here is from our Embera Village day tour, which is way out. The only way to get there is by a dugout canoe. And half the year, we have a 30-foot or 10-meter water variance, water level difference. So half the year, we have to drive as far as we can, which ends up on a dirt road. And then we hop in this four-wheel drive taxi that goes up and over a mountain. It's only a 5-minute ride. It's very pretty, but it's a little awkward for some people to climb in the back of this taxi. And then we go to meet the boat. So you have to, but we line all that up. And of course, that taxi, that's an additional cost. Then the other half of the year, we just drive right up to where we meet the boat. So providing airport transfers is a nice touch that your guests will appreciate, especially in a foreign country. Consider how close your venue is to local restaurants and shopping. If you do not provide airport or restaurant shuttles, give your guests, even before they get there, provide them with a list of local shuttle and taxi services or how to find the venue or hotel concierge that can help them line all that up. You want to make it as easy and as safe as possible for your guests to get around during your retreat. Like here in Panama, taxis are everywhere. They're really easy and they're really cheap, but they're not always safe. Some of them are like the Flintstone cars. I have literally been in a taxi where I could see the road under my feet going by. So they usually don't put a lot of money into maintenance. And your hotel concierge, your retreat center manager, or homeowner can help you find and line up local shuttles in the area. All right, so now we're moving on to tours and activities. All kinds of fun things. This is really fun, choosing which activities, which tours you and your group are going to do on your retreat. So, most areas have great activities and tours to choose from. You can do internet research. TripAdvisor is a great place. They actually have a category, things to do. You just enter in your location and you will come up with a huge list, including reviews of the activity and local tour operators. Your hotel concierge, your retreat center manager, the homeowner can help you find interesting things to include in your retreat. Will you include these tours? Or I've seen some retreats where they have a free day or a free afternoon, and then they'll make a list of suggestions, options for people to do for tours. And then you give them obviously how they can book that, how they can set that up for themselves. Many activities you can lead on your own, such as having them all make vision boards in one of your sessions. Do journaling or workbook activities together. Have a dance night. Play some music or do some drumming. You can have a beach bonfire. All kinds of things that don't really cost anything and you can all do on your own. Including unique tours and activities will guarantee that your retreat will be unforgettable for your participants. And sharing these unique experiences will create really deep, lasting bonds among your guests, oftentimes that will last a lifetime. And again, always keep in mind how the tour or activity aligns with the theme and your content of the retreat. And they can become really great teaching moments or discussions about how it brings out the point of your retreat. For example, if you choose, if you're doing a prosperity workshop and there's whales nearby, you can include whale watching, and it may not be obvious that how whale watching relates to prosperity, but whales represent abundance. And so you can talk about how they're the largest animals on earth. They eat the smallest. They are always well fed. How they actually can go months without eating and they never worry. They never freak out about being hungry. So there's all kinds of teaching moments in that activity that align perfectly when your message is all about welcoming prosperity and getting into the flow of abundance. So there's so many to choose from. You could do an art class, do some kind of arts and crafts activity. You could take them on a ropes course or zip lining. You could take them to a local winery, wine tasting. You could take them out kayaking. Go to a local museum. Maybe there's a local volcano or cave, something fun, geological. Take them to a local farmer's market or an arts and crafts market, artisans market. Get them hula lessons. And my favorite, whale watching. So the trick is to think outside the box. Make it really fun and unique. Look for unique and memorable experiences that will take your retreat to that next level. Use your imagination and ask the locals about some really interesting and off the beaten path adventures. Again, you can ask your hotel, the concierge, the homeowner, what is unique about that area and what would they do? Maybe some behind the scenes tour in a museum, a local restaurant, local activity. Maybe being extras in a movie. That would be really fun. Of course, it's a long day. You can't do that for half a day. Or even visiting a portal to Lemuria, finding the local power spots and vortexes. That's what this picture is. This is a portal to Lemuria that I discovered in the Pearl Islands. And you can see how it looks like a road there. And half the day it's underwater, and you can only get in there at low tide. Very magical spot. So also remember that we're talking about all the tours and the activities, but free time is equally important. Giving your people time to play on their own, relax, and reflect and process everything that you've been teaching them. An expert retreat leader knows when and how much free time to give their clients. So a good rule of thumb is to make sure that each day you have 20, even 25% of the day devoted to free time. Because sometimes the very best processing happens during the free time. All right, so we've done it. We've come to the end. I know I've given you a ton of information. So your homework is, I will load up as soon as we're done, I'll load up into our Google Docs account and send you the link to your Module 2 workbook, so that it will give you leading questions to work through choosing your location, venue, tours, activities, meals, transportation, everything we've talked about. And I'm putting together a location checklist with all those questions on it, and you can add your own, and you can just go through and measure your location against that checklist. So have fun selecting your location, venue, tours, and activities. And this Wednesday, the 13th, our bonus guest speaker is Alicia Rodriguez. And she's going to come to us from Ecuador, teaching us all about setting intentions, managing expectations, and being in the flow of consciousness. And then our next module, next Monday, it's not quite as fun and exciting as today, but all very important information, is putting your team together if you're going to hire a retreat coordinator or staff assistants, equipment that you might need, signing contracts, and getting yourself covered with insurance. All right, I'm going to stop sharing, and I'm going to open it up to questions and answers. And unfortunately, because my computer died on me and I had to reboot, I lost all the chat. I can go back and find it and answer in the Facebook group any questions that you guys put in there. But so I didn't get to see any of the chats that were before my computer took a break. So, all right. I'm seeing one here from Mary about tipping. Good question. Chef, guest speakers. One time she was at a retreat, but had not been forewarned about that. Yeah, absolutely. You want people to be aware about any tipping policies, whether like your tour guides, your boat captains, all of those things, the drivers, your maids in the hotel. And what is the tipping policy if you're going internationally? What are they expecting? Do they expect a tip or not? And what is the standard policy? So you want to research all of that out ahead of time and explain to your people ahead of time what's expected. I know many times, like a lot of times it's what I get is a lot of people come to me, they know they're supposed to pay a tip, but they don't know how much. And it's always an awkward question. As the tour leader, I never quite know, because I never want to tell anybody what they should or shouldn't, but be prepared to give a ballpark and let them know. My theory on tipping is tippings should never be expected, but is always appreciated. And never, in my opinion, it shouldn't be mandatory like it often is in the US, but people want to know how to prepare. And there are some places it is expected. I once went on a retreat, led a retreat, where we were on a live-on-board boat in the Dominican Republic to swim with humpback whales. And at the end of the trip, they had a little store where people could buy souvenirs on the ship. And at the end, they had you settle up with what you bought at the store. You didn't pay any money until the very last day. And then as you're paying that, they're also saying to you, what is your tip? Do you want to leave a tip? And so that's really awkward. People feel obligated to leave a tip when a crew member is asking you, what are you going to tip me? So that I didn't like at all. So we knew that a tip was expected, but I didn't realize that's how they were going to do it. I'm back. I am so sorry. My computer is not happy today. All right. So I finished on the tipping question. Does anybody else have any questions, you can go ahead and just unmute yourself or raise your hand in the participants bar. Yes, Regan, I'll unmute you. Hi.
I have a question. Hey, thanks for all that great info. That is so helpful. I have a question about alcohol. Like, if you really are looking to create an environment of healing and spiritual growth, for me, having a non-alcoholic environment has been the best for that. So can you suggest, like, how do you navigate alcohol?
Yeah, it's a good one. And it's something that I tend to forget because I don't drink at all. I can't stand the taste of it. So it's not in my mindset, but lots of people love to have a glass of wine or something with dinner. It's when you're at a hotel, it's harder because people are going to want to, they might want a cocktail or something, alcohol, beer, wine with dinner. And in that situation, you want to then have all your activities done. Or maybe a meditation to let them go to sleep at night. But the transformational work is done before that hour. And when you're setting up the retreat and maybe they booked the retreat, you can send them out an information sheet that says, during dinner, fine, have what you want, but, we're going to focus on our inner journeys and alcohol may affect that. So we recommend that you don't drink or really moderately during this retreat. Now, if you're at a retreat center, then it's really easy, or at a home, you just don't have it available.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
And ideally, if people are coming on a spiritual retreat, you're not going to get the partiers. You're not going to get the people who are going to bring a bottle of vodka with them.
Okay.
So but it generally works itself out. I've never had a problem with it. In my retreats here in Panama, we are at a hotel, we're eating in a restaurant, they have other guests at the restaurant, and I've never had a problem with people having a beer or two with dinner, wine, whatever. It's never gotten out of hand.
Okay. Yeah, I guess if we're clear with our messaging, like in the information packaging, kind of saying, wording it somehow that just kind of so that we're not attracting the partiers, then we're less likely to run into issues.
Exactly. And Alicia's going to talk a bit about that. And managing and expectations is crucial in your promotional material and marketing, as well as once they're booked, setting them up so they know exactly what the situation's going to be like. Right?
Okay, great. Thank you.
You bet. All right, John, did I see your hand up? Yeah. Hey, John.
Hi, thanks for all that kind of very pragmatic and useful information. The kind of the checklist, the ultimate checklist of the things you think of and the things you don't think of. So that's
right.
Just a question about how far in your experience, because what you offer is is pretty unique. How far are people prepared to travel to come to your retreats? Because because you're speaking to an international audience, aren't you?
I am. Yeah. It really depends. Like, for example, I'll use my case because obviously swimming with dolphins, my swimming with dolphins retreats, there are a handful of amazing places in the world to do that. Bimini in the Bahamas, which is super easy to get to. It's a 20-minute flight out of Fort Lauderdale, Florida. And most of my clients are North American. I do get some from Europe. I do get some from Australia. But generally speaking, they're North American. So that's easy. Or Hawaii. That's kind of an easy, fun destination for everybody. There's another great destination, the Red Sea in Egypt.
Yeah.
My North American clients aren't going to go there. It's too far. They're going to say, why don't I just go to Hawaii? Why don't I just go to Bimini? For the European market, it's perfect.
Yeah.
Right? So you got to know your clientele and how far they want to go. On the other hand, if it's such a unique experience, they will go anywhere.
Yeah.
And like I don't know if you saw, but I just sent out an announcement for my, I have a new location I'm going to go to in October. It's Moorea in French Polynesia. It's right next to Tahiti. It's about as far away as you can get from anybody.
Yeah.
I mean, I was showing my husband where it is because, of course, he'd never heard of it. And it literally is in the center of the Pacific Ocean. There's nothing nearby. But because it's pretty much a new destination for swimming with humpback whales, so you don't have to live on board a boat like you do in the Silver Bank and the DR. Tonga isn't well known, but it's getting really crowded. So because it's a new fun location, I sent out the email and I had a booking within an hour of sending out the email. And I've got a couple of bookings now, and I had a flurry of email responses, inquiries, more than I've had for any other location. So it depends on the experience, how far people are willing to go and what the draw is. So did that answer your question?
That is brilliant. No, that's great. It's what I assumed as well. And just one last thing. How long do your retreat?
My retreats are generally 5 to 7 days. Like my Panama retreats, I have people fly in on a Saturday and fly out on a Saturday.
Yeah.
Now they can add optional extensions, but my whale retreats, and I do that so that it's easy for people to travel, right? They can take 1 week out of work, and it works out really perfectly with the timing of the little regional puddle jumper flight we have to take. And because they don't fly every day at the times I want, but the days I want, it's perfect. And when we're out in the island Monday through Friday, the island it's never crowded on a weekday. It's a weekend local retreat place, local vacation place. So on Monday through Friday, we are literally often the only boat on the water with the whales. Yeah. On a Sunday, there's a whole bunch of local boats. So so a week is a really nice time, but it really depends on, if you really want to go in depth, 10 days is not unusual, or if they're going someplace really far. So like my Moorea retreat, what I'm actually offering is you can come for a week, it's full 7 days, or I'm doing 2 weeks back to back, and you can stay for both. And some people are saying, hey, if I'm going that far, I might as well.
Yeah.
So keep that. So it's a further location. The longer they have to travel to get there, the more time they're going to want to spend there.
Sure. Great. Thank you.
You bet.
I have a quick question.
Yes.
Am I unmuted? Hi.
Yeah.
So I thank you again. This is awesome. I did my first retreat. It was with just 2 of my clients. It was very almost like 1-on-2. And it was to a hotel I'd been to in Cancun. I'd been there. I'd done the research south of Cancun. The only issue I had was the walls were thin. I was in a corner space, and so I didn't hear anyone next to me. And their complaint was that they could hear their neighbors, but they didn't tell me till the last day. And I had been asking every day, how's it going? They didn't actually tell me. So there was nothing I could change.
Right.
And I've stayed there like 3 different times at this huge place, and I've never had that issue. So that's something where, what do you do? And they were very satisfied. They loved the retreat.
Good.
I mean, obviously I'm encouraged to keep them going, keep doing this, to change their life. But that for me, they're not sensitive sleepers, so they were able to sleep through no problem. But I'm ultra sensitive to things. So, and that's the kind of people I draw to me generally.
Right.
So what do you do about that? How do you know? I mean, the people at the hotel wouldn't have probably told me that. It's like a big giant, it's Vedanta resort. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that, but it's like 4 different giant property with 4 different hotels. Yeah, and I actually got a timeshare there before I injured myself. So I'm like locked in.
Nice.
Yeah.
I would say, well, one, that's not unusual for people to be hesitant to tell you something that wasn't going well. I actually spoke to somebody yesterday she's been on 2 of my retreats, and the last retreat she came on, she actually had some things she wasn't happy with, and that when she was here was last September, and she just told me yesterday. So
wow.
It's not uncommon because they don't want to upset you. I mean,
but the thing is, I mean, we could have changed their room. So that's the thing. Maybe I just need to let them know, please let me know if anything's not great, and that way we can address it. They also said their bathtub didn't look clean, even though it was clean. It probably had some like
stains,
and they could have cleaned it. You know, like that could have all been done. My room was spectacular, so I had no way of knowing. And the hotel would not allow me. I wanted to go in there and put like fairy dust the place with crystals and affirmation cards, and they wouldn't actually let me into the room before they were there. So I actually never saw it. So that's something to be aware of. Some places will probably let you go in. So I had no way of knowing.
Right. And yeah, so some people are afraid to upset you. So part of it is their self-responsibility. If they don't tell you, then it's
sure.
Everybody knows that at a big hotel, you can always ask to have your room changed if there's a problem. So part of it they have to be responsible for. You can't be responsible for them not speaking up. But you can, as you say, invite them to and just let them know that you're here to support them and that you want them to be as comfortable as possible. And part of stepping up in a transformation retreat is speaking out when you're not comfortable, right? Yeah. So you can make that actually part of the retreat, part of the transformation is getting them.
That's a great idea.
You know, make it, if it's not, if there's a problem and they suffer through it, that's something they need to look at about themselves. So let's give them a voice to speak out.
Totally. That's great. I love that. I think saying that at the beginning in that way would be really, because it was an empowerment.
That's right. So they're not complaining. They're speaking out for themselves, for their self-care.
Yeah, taking care of themselves. Yeah.
That's right.
Okay.
Give them permission to do that.
Okay. Yep. Thank you.
Yeah, you bet. You bet. All right. And Bonnie has her hand up.
Hi, Anne.
Hi.
Information has been just awesome. So thank you very much. I'm wondering if you have like a list of venues that you've really had really good experiences, and if you'd be willing to share your knowledge.
Are you looking at doing dolphin? You're looking at doing dolphin retreats, right?
Yeah, I am.
Yeah. So that's easy. If you were looking at doing wine tasting retreats, I couldn't help you.
No.
Yeah, absolutely. I love Wild Quest in Bimini. They're really, they're just set up, the retreat center. They teach yoga, they do all the food. They do an interesting thing where they have everybody, they, do seva. So they expect everybody to help with a little bit of meal prep, with setting the tables, with washing the dishes and all of that. I personally don't want my people to have to do that. We're on retreat. I want them to, most of their retreats, people do that. I say, hey, can I just pay a little bit more, and can you hire a local person? You put more money into the local economy so that my people don't have to do that.
Yeah.
And it's like $250 for the entire week to hire a local to do that. Great. Done. Piece of cake. That's an easy yes for me. That's my only thing that I would do a little bit differently that they normally do. And so I like them. The thing about Wild Quest is that if you commit to bringing a group to them, one, you have to put down a sizable deposit, and their retreat, if you're taking a whole week and blocking it off for just you are responsible for bringing 20 people.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
It's a lot. It's a lot, especially, for a first time retreat. Yeah. And if you don't, you still have to cover their costs.
Wow.
Right?
Yeah.
That's a huge chunk to bite off the first time.
Yeah.
It's a great location and everything's set up. So, but Bimini is great. There are other smaller like you could do it piecemeal, find your own hotel or rent a home. And there are other tour operators that will take you out to be with the dolphins.
Mm-hmm.
They're just generally not as spiritually minded as Wild Quest is.
Right.
Right. Or you could talk to Wild Quest about maybe can you book into one of their retreats and bring half the group, bring 10 people. Right.
Ones that they've already set up.
Ones that they're hosting on their own, so that you may not have, because if they're doing it on their own, they may have their own activities, but maybe you could, lead some of the activities or give you some time, right? Do a retreat share.
Okay. Awesome.
Hawaii, I love because you could just walk off the beach and swim with the dolphins. You don't need a boat. And that makes it really easy. So I just rent a house right on Kealakekua Bay, and we just walk out the door and kayak and swim with the dolphins. So it's super simple. But then I have to either bring in a private chef, or we all go get our own food, or go grocery shopping, or we go out to restaurants. Because it's a bit of a drive up the hill to get to a restaurant. So there is that, and you do have to rent a vehicle to get everybody around.
Right. Okay.
But those are my two favorites, and that's what I do.
Yeah. Yeah. No,
I'm happy to, if you want to talk further about it.
Yeah. Everyone else probably isn't getting a lot out of this.
That's right. That's right. All right. Mary, did you have something you wanted to add?
Me?
Go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Now I can.
Okay. I just had a question. So I just looking for your expertise. So when you started, it looks like people are saying start small, but are you better to start in your own country where you're more familiar with it rather than going to another international or an American venue or something like that? I'm kind of struggling with, I keep changing my mind about potential venues, and I'm thinking, I saw your picture of Lake Louise and it's like, ooh, I could do that. Mm-hmm. So I'm just wondering, how do you know? And my mind keeps changing about what I'm offering in my retreat. I thought I was going to do one thing, and now I'm kind of going in another direction, and I feel like I'm all over the map with it. So I just kind of need somebody to kind of anchor me a little bit with it.
I would definitely suggest doing a smaller, more local, regional retreat for your first one than doing international. Because the minute you go international, there's a whole. It's just more complicated. It's a whole lot, and it's harder sometimes. Sometimes the location can be the draw, but on the other hand, it's a whole lot more expense for people to get there. So Lake Louise, Moraine Lake, I love Moraine Lake even more, is even more beautiful than Lake Louise. And I love Canmore because it's such a sweet little town, yet it's just right accessible to everything in Banff. So, you could easily do any of those locations. But I think the first thing is, what the theme of your retreat is?
It changes from day to day.
Okay.
Because I keep getting more information. I'm going, oh, I never thought about that. Oh, I never thought about that. So I just feel like I keep shifting it. Oh, I could do that. I could do that. So, but I don't know. I need to get clear, I guess, on it. So.
Well, I would say, first off, pick the one that you're most excited about.
Okay.
And then the other ideas, don't throw them away. Just put them on the back shelf. Write them down, and they could be the next retreat.
Okay.
Right? So focus, just pick one that one is going to be appealing to your retreat clients and that you're most excited about. And go with that. And then the other ideas may be amazing, great ideas, and do those next time.
And it's funny that you mentioned about asking locals, because I know one year I flew to Calgary and went to Banff, and I'd been there in the summer, but I'd never been there in the winter. So I went and asked some people at a table sitting beside me, some young people, so what is there to do here? And they basically gave me my itinerary for the next week. They said, oh, so you go to Johnson Canyon, you go to this place and you rent these ice picks for your boots. And this day you go up the gondola because this is the day they have the roast beef dinner. I had the most amazing time. because I asked these people that I had never met before that were sitting at the table beside me. So
exactly. The locals, you just ask them, what do you do? What do you do around here? You know? Yeah, absolutely. And it's like with the Hawaiian locals, that's how I learned. When I was hosting a really big event over there, I hosted a 100-person event and on the Big Island, but I was bringing in local Hawaiian speakers. And they're the ones who told me all about, hey, we just go to the beaches and swim. We don't need a boat. So absolutely. Cool.
thanks, Anne.
You're welcome. Anybody else? You're all ready. You're all excited. I gave you lots of information and great. If there's nothing else, we'll go ahead and sign off, and and again, apologize for the computer. Don't know what it was doing. And I'll try and edit this all together into one smooth presentation and send out the replay and send you the links to the homework. And I will see you on Wednesday for bonus guest speaker Alicia and in our Facebook group. So thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
All right. Bye.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks a lot. Bye, everyone.
Bye.